Welcome to the first episode of In the 305 with Chairman Gilbert. Here we will discuss important topics impacting our community with those who can affect change. And together, we're going to try to find real solutions. I'm your host, Oliver G. Gilbert III. I'm the chairman of the board of the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners. I'm also the county commissioner for District 1. For over 11 years, I've served this community first as a councilman and then as mayor of Miami Gardens, and now as the chairman of the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners. Tonight's topic, one that concerns many of us, transportation, specifically rapid mass transit. When I was a young law student, I used to leave my parents' house in Miami Gardens. I'd get on the 27. The 27 bus, it'd take me all the way down 27th Avenue. It'd take me to the Martin Luther King station. I'd get on the Martin Luther King Metro Rail there, and I would take it all the way around to the University of Miami. That's how I got to law school. I guess the point is that rapid mass transit helped me get my law degree. It provided me access to a place that I didn't have a car to get to. I appreciate our system in a different way because of that. I know that our system can actually create those type of opportunities for young boys and young girls who are just like me, who want to actually change their lives and change yours. We went out on the streets and we asked public transit users their thoughts on the system. This is what they said.
So I've used public transportation my whole entire life, from middle school, high school. It's great.
I really like the time it saves me. I like the fact that I'm able to read books in my downtime, so I don't have to focus on driving. I can do other things.
I take it every day. It helps me bypass a lot of traffic on the way home from med school, especially. So yeah, it's convenient.
It's kind of the only method I have right now, since I don't have a license or I don't also have money for Ubers and such. It seems the most affordable option out here.
It's beneficial to me because it saves me so much money every year on gas and Uber trips. Oh my gosh, like it's the greatest thing in the world.
Tonight we welcome an extraordinary person, a good friend of mine, the mayor of Miami-Dade County. She was the first woman elected mayor of Miami-Dade County and the first Jewish person elected mayor of Miami-Dade County. A good friend to me and a good friend to this entire community, Daniela Levine Cava. We also welcome really an industry leader in transportation planning. People fly all across the country to talk to them about what we're doing here in South Florida and how they can do it there. The executive director of the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization, Eileen Bouclé. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Now, let's start, Eileen. Let's hop right into the transportation. As director of the TPO, what specific initiatives or projects are you currently working on or planning to implement to enhance overall transportation in Miami-Dade County?
Well, I'm very focused with the governing board to advance mass transit in various forms, particularly the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Program, the SMART program, which the county recently transitioned to the implementation and construction phase. So we're looking at everything from commuter rail to Metromover to Metro Rail, bus rapid transit, first last mile connectivity, pedestrian bicycle network, and really how we're integrating and expanding access and mobility to Miami-Dade County.
Okay, so when you said the governing board, some people might not know what that means. Who's your governing board? I know who they are because I'm a member of the governing board, but who's your governing board?
So it's my pleasure to work with a governing board that includes all 13 county commissioners. And Mr. Chairman, you are on my board as the vice chairman. So we have, in addition to the county commissioners, we have the 8 largest municipalities on our board, as well as the school board and expressway authority. So we have quite a large, diverse board of all different municipal and county interests that come together to look comprehensively at for transportation in Miami-Dade County.
My understanding of what we're trying to accomplish and what you're the primary planner for is creating a transit system that works for everybody in all instances as best as we can contemplate. Mayor, what are we doing as a county to actually coordinate and work with them?
TPO is the planning group that helps us, and the city and counties participate. and then we implement. So we are spending the money we need to spend for the county's portion of moving forward all of the corridors in the SMART program. And we are working on enhancements with various federal and state grant supports, certainly on overall mobility, like bicycle and pedestrian mobility. We're partners in protecting our people, because unfortunately we do have accidents, and we have a Vision Zero plan, but we work together to achieve greater safety. So all of this has been many, many years in the making. The public does really wonder why it takes so long. And a big part of that is that these things are very expensive. They require a lot of planning, engineering work, and so we work together to accomplish all of that.
I mean, and you hit on a good point. You know, the public often wonder why things take so long. But in truth, it's not just the money. It's the complexity of it.
Yes.
And so when you talk about building, the county's going to be responsible, working with the state, for building rail up 27th Avenue. Well, there are things on 27th Avenue.
Yes.
So things like utilities that have to be relocated, and property that have to be purchased. And those are the type of things that I think that when people say, well, what's taking so long? You understand that in some instances, you all are moving faster than really most would, but still it's not fast enough for the expectations of people who wanted something. So I get that. You know, one of the things that I've noticed is, and I know you are, Mayor, you're at the forefront, because we're at the forefront of the climate crisis here on the planet. Climate change, sea level rise, is an existential threat to humanity, but definitely to us here in Miami-Dade County, our economy. How are these initiatives, how do they play into that? How do our transit goals actually work with our climate goals?
So critically important. As we build a better transit system, we're reducing our carbon emissions, meaning we're reducing the risk of climate change, we're reducing carbon in the atmosphere from all the vehicles. It's so much more efficient to ride mass transit than to have an individual vehicle. So that's a huge point. And we're also making it possible for people to utilize transit by building along those corridors places where it's extremely efficient and just very convenient to utilize mass transit. So we're building the users, the ridership, as we build more densely along the corridors. It also allows us to not continue sprawl in areas that we need to protect. Our farmland, our water-sensitive areas, Everglades restoration projects in South Dade, for example. We need to protect all of that, and to do that, people need to live somewhere. Our population is still growing, and we need to build up and not out.
And now that's an interesting concept, because when we don't often talk about on the street, we don't talk about housing and transportation in one conversation. Right. But if you really stopped for a second, you thought about it. Well, people are always moving here to Dade County. We can't afford to add a car to the road. Where are these people going to live? So when you can build more density, what kind of effect can that have on the housing market? One of the problems that we have here in South Florida is really it's too expensive to live in some respects, and so the housing doesn't match the wages, and so, but part of the housing problem is really a supply and demand problem. Talk about that for me.
Well, supply and demand for sure is the issue, and we've been so aggressively addressing the high cost of housing, which is the major driver of the high cost of living. You said earlier, transportation and housing, they go together. Roughly, people are spending on average 13% of their income on transportation issues. And we have one of the highest housing burdens, it's called anywhere in the country, where more people are spending more than half of their income on housing and transportation combined, making it really difficult to pay for their other needs. So when we build more densely along those corridors, we can reduce the parking requirements. That brings down the cost of construction. When we build higher, we've reduced land use because we're getting more units per acre. And these things help to bring prices under control. We are doing this through our Department of Transportation and Public Works in the county. They manage, they're doing like 6,000 new units of workforce and affordable housing along the transit corridors. So it is really a critical opportunity, and it also builds the ridership. It's the incremental value increase of those properties that now are going to be dedicated specifically to help us pay for the cost of transit, because transit does not pay for itself. The tickets, the fare box does not cover the cost of transit. So if we, as a good public policy, want to have more transit for safety, for reduction of traffic, for reduction of carbon, we need to find ways to pay for it and subsidize the cost.
You know, the mayor just said something that was very important. It's called fare box recovery, and it doesn't pay for itself. So for everybody who rides, there's a supplement that's coming from the general taxpayer, because we understand the importance of transit and rapid mass transit. We need to build up. If we build up, we'll have more units. If we have more units, we can reduce the cost of housing. When we put people in those units, we can't afford to put cars on the road, so we put them on rapid transit.
That's chicken
along
and
those
egg.
corridors.
I think what comes first? And I do want to point out that traditionally the federal government, which pays a large portion of our transit system dollars, only rewarded places that already were dense.
Yes.
So we have really worked hard to change that calculation and say, look, if we build it, they truly will come.
I feel like if the city had more public transportation, like traffic levels would definitely go down.
They should expand it more south, if that's possible. I don't even know, but I know a lot of people can't benefit from the metro because it doesn't go south enough.
Like there's not enough routes to go to different places in Miami compared to like Philadelphia, where I'm from, or if I were to go to New York for the weekend or night, everything is so much more accessible. Like build more metro stops somewhere, like build another train station or something.
It's interesting you brought that up. It's because it's not that we wouldn't want to put rail there. What the federal government, in some ways, what they say, when you think about it, it makes sense. They understand that there are no people along these corridors. There are not going to be enough riders to actually sustain the system. So they don't want us to build a system that we can't sustain and that they aren't going to sustain. It kind of makes sense. You know, we've slipped into the financing part of it some, and that leads to like one of the big topics. How you pay for this with the extraordinary pressure regarding taxes. How do you actually pay for the billions of dollars that it takes to build out the system that we all know we need to make sure Miami-Dade County is prosperous in the future?
Definitely, we're very aggressive about how we approach our funding, and I'm really quite proud of Miami-Dade TPO because last year we had the highest level of funding ever adopted in our 5-year work program, just under $12 billion, which was almost a 40% increase. So we are working side by side with the county to pursue any and all federal grants that we can, and we look to leverage our local funds with our state funding partners as well. So we're good at doing that. We work collaboratively together. There are multiple agencies working together side by side, and we have the vision. So, you know, we're open for business. We like to say that there's not $1 we leave on the table in Tallahassee. We will grab it, yes. And we do a very good job at pursuing those funds.
A lot of times we focus on what transportation and what transit will cost, and we don't necessarily focus on what it will cost us not to do it.
Right.
And so I've traveled with you. We talked about transportation, and we said in all the rooms, we understand that we're leaving billions of dollars literally on our roadways right now. And so when you talk to the business leaders, what's the business community talking about when we talk about expanding transit and whether it's something that we have to do?
They're hyper-focused on congestion. Congestion is the big issue that affects our economy and quality of life. And every time that we come to the table with another option, they're wanting to see that go through and support that. And we want to talk with them about how they can offer this to their employees and how companies can locate here and take advantage of the fact that we're the only area in the state that has heavy rail, Metro Mover, and the largest bus fleet really in the state of Florida.
And there's a special way that businesses can help pay for it by purchasing in bulk for their employees. We really encourage that. And even if they pass on the cost to their employees, there's a savings. And of course, we encourage them to pay for the transit. They might pay for parking, so they should pay for bus and rail passes.
It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, quite frankly, the question that I always get from the business community is when are we going to see these projects open? It can't be soon enough for them. And when I meet with the chamber and other business groups, they're very supportive, and it's just a matter of how do we get there? What do we need to do to get there?
If I could mention our local initiative called the Better Bus Network, which is designed to create more reliability and frequency on the most utilized routes. It's all about getting people to where they need to go faster and more reliably, and that includes job centers. 40 years ago, when the bus routes were configured, it was a very different Miami-Dade County. The job centers were different, the schools were different. So 40 years later, we needed to do a major adjustment. And you know, change is hard. People don't like change, and we're working hard to make sure people can find their way in the new system, and we've added additional supplements, and we will be continuing to refine those routes. But it was dramatic, the percentage increase in people being able to get to their workplace within a reasonable commute time with this new configuration. So really, it's all about driving the economy as well.
There's an interesting statistic. With 200, I think, and 40,000 or 250,000 people boarding our transit system every day, we have more people who board our transit system than 43 counties in Florida have residents.
That's good.
So yeah, then 43 counties in
yes.
Florida have residents. That's how significant an undertaking it is. And so when people want to know why it's so difficult, well, it's really, I mean, you're experiencing it in a micro way, in a very small way, because it's just your bus, but it's not just your bus, it's a bus system. It's a bus system that feeds into a metro rail. It's a metro rail that leads to a metro mover. It's a metro mover that that has to work with circulars in different cities. So these things are actually a little more complex than people might actually acknowledge.
I use public transportation for getting around in the city on my days off. I find it a great way when my friends come into town too from other countries and stuff, that they can come from the airport and that I can meet them here, and then we could go hang out at the beach and stuff like that.
I love to get these stories from happy travelers, and a lot of times it's visitors. They say, oh, that bus to the beach, it's great, or that bus to the ballet, great. And our bus ridership is back up to pre-pandemic levels, and most places cannot claim that.
That's true. That's true. So your advice to folks would be, hey, listen, try transit.
Try it.
And that has the benefit of actually, you know, not just them enjoying transit and not being in their car, but when they try transit, it helps us build the case to the federal government that they should be investing in transit here in Miami-Dade County.
Right. So they're helping the whole community when they ride transit. Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Arlene? Any thoughts?
Exactly the point. Try transit, but also give us feedback and let us know what your needs are. Right now, the Miami-Dade TPO is doing the update to the county's long-range transportation plan. And as part of that, we have a very aggressive public outreach program, and we've gone all over the county. And as a result of it, we're building the future plan for Smart Plan 2.0 in areas of the county that yet have really come forward because of how much we've grown and how different we look today and the development and where it's occurring. We need to start planning those areas of the county. So, I've met people on transit that were first-time riders or users because they were going to an interview or for a very specific case, and once they try it, wow, they realize what an asset it is to have. But we want to hear from you. We have on our website or the county or the TPO, let us know how it's working, how it's not working, what your needs are, and it's our job to listen and come back and see how we can expand the network further and expand access, just like with a Better Bus Network. We know over and over that every time that we expand mobility, people try it, people engage. So that's really a part of our job in making sure it happens.
If I could bring up what we haven't touched on is bicycling. So we can bicycle all year round, and we are building out some really important trails. The Underline, the South Dade Trail. There's trails along the waterway. On the beach there are trails. And we need to treat that as a real viable mobility option.
I do ride my bike to my transit station during certain times of the year. You can ride your bike all year round here in South Florida, but the infrastructure has to be there. It has to be safe. We are working towards that. And another thing, we're working with the school board to introduce a pilot program, which the TPO adopted recently, where we want to go in and do temporary bike lanes and have kids start riding their bike with bike safety rules and see how that works, and is there an interest, and if so, how can we build out that network for kids to get to school safely on their bike.
Well, you know I cycle, but I don't cycle to go places, I cycle for fitness. How do we change the culture around things like cycling for as a transit mode, and even, you know, catching a bus? Some of this stuff is cultural. Some of this stuff is built on the idea that, oh, I don't want to ride a bus. And have you been on buses lately? There's Wi-Fi, there's air conditioning. It's real. It's not the bus when I was going. It's not the bus when I was going. It's not your grandmother's bus. It's not your grandmother's bus. Definitely not your great grandmother's bus. So I mean, how do we address that with the culture? I think that type of conversation, because people are coming in it with such preconceptions about what cycling is and what bus ridership should look like, and they're not the person. They're not a bus person. Well, I don't know what a bus person is. I've caught the bus, so I don't understand that. How do we address that?
Well, I think young people, we should ask young people to adopt an older person and show them how to get around on transit, and with or without the bike. Because they're very adept, and we have these great apps, and you can go anywhere and use them, and it's really very fluid. I would like to address the funding issue and remind people that decisions are made in Washington and in Tallahassee about how these dollars will be used. And unfortunately, in Tallahassee, there are some efforts to cut back on our flexibility. For example, the money from the state, some would like to be restricted only 20% to transit and the rest for roads. Well, roads doesn't really solve our problem here, and we do have a dedicated expressway authority as well. We need to beef up our transit for all the reasons that we've been saying. So we need help to protect our ability to do so. As far as bicycle infrastructure, where's the money? We've recently expanded our impact fees to be able to be used for more bicycle infrastructure, but there's a lot of pressure not to do that. So we have to really, and the public hopefully can understand that we cannot wave our magic wands, that there are a lot of restrictions, but with their involvement and their support, and there are advocacy groups that people can join if they are really interested in these issues, and we encourage them to do so.
What people need to understand is roads are not free. There are subsidies to maintain our roads. We pay taxes to have the roads built, to maintain the roads, and then we pay to use the roads by either our own car, leasing our car, owning our car, maintaining our car. So we're paying subsidies out of both sides of our pockets for roadways, and nobody ever talks about that. But yet everyone talks about transit. So I feel that regardless, we have to pay for our transportation network, and I feel that all funding is needed. We need a comprehensive network that includes all forms of mobility for our great county and our citizens.
Excellent.
You know, I see we're running out of time, so I guess my closing thought would just be about change. I think one of the things that echoes through what both of you are saying is that people need to actually be comfortable with it. Everybody wants the system that they had or of their imagination. Everybody has a fixed idea about what will solve. This system will not be solved with bikes or cars or buses or BRTs or trains or urban air mobility or sea gliders. It's going to be all of it. It's going to be the trails that you're building. It's going to be the metro rail that we're getting up the North Corridor. It's going to be the BRT, eventually expanding that and growing that to be rail down south, because really when the density is there, you need rail down south. It's going to be a way getting people to and from the beach, because that's a job hub, an economic hub, efficiently. It's going to be all of those things. But we have to be willing to have an open conversation about how we create that. And I'm just happy that you two were my very first guests for this show to talk about this very first issue. Yes. Thank you all very much. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight. This was our very first effort to talk about things that actually matter to you. You heard from two extraordinary people, the mayor of Miami-Dade County and the executive director of the TPO. What they both talked about is what we're doing, but what we're doing as a county and what we're doing as a TPO needs to be what we're doing as a community. Mass transit literally affects all of us. It affects the kid who's just like me, who's trying to go to law school, but it also affects the person who's living in Hialeah but wants to go to Miami Beach to work. It affects the senior citizen who just wants to go to recreate with her friends at the senior center. It affects all of us. There are things that we can do. For far too long, we've been passive activists in this conversation. When I say passive activists, we've been people who talk about it when it bothers us, but aren't actually committed to changing it. As a community, we can build a system that not only works for us, but works for our children and our grandchildren. And I think that's our charge. This is the beginning of the conversation. Don't you let it stop. Become an ambassador for the idea that Miami-Dade County should have the best rapid mass transit system in the country. We should, because we need to, because we're an extraordinary place to live, but we can never truly become a world-class community until we have world-class rapid mass transit. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you next time.
I'm Cindy. I'm studying to become an English teacher, and I love Island TV. Why? Because we are the Caribbean. We are Island TV. We need to reveal our fundamental contributions in America. We need Island TV to reveal our different beautiful Caribbean cultures for the world to respect and understand us better. Grow your business while supporting the only Caribbean television station in Florida. Advertise with Island TV.